Hey everyone. Hey
Hey,
Param. Hey
how are
Sanjay.
you?
Hey Arun. I'm doing good. How are you?
All good, boss.
Nice. Good to know.
क्या हाल है भैया आपका।
All good संजय. कैसा चल रहा है सब?
अब बढ़िया चल रहा है भैया।
नाइस नाइस. गुड टू नो. टाइम मिल रहा है क्लास अटेंड करने का?
हाँ,
नाइस.
निकलना पड़ेगा ना टाइम तो।
Yes, that's the spirit. Hey Ashwad. Hey Sandeep. Guys, anything planned for the rest of the day? Anything interesting you guys are doing? We'll wait for a couple of more minutes. Maybe at 6 or 5 we'll start the session, okay? Today's session is going to be very interesting because I'll try to give you guys a guideline, a roadmap that how you can try to kind of jot down and mix and match everything to kind of solve problems, right? Because in the end, we all are hired by the companies to solve problems. And how do we do that? We'll try to find that answers, okay? I have some frameworks in mind. Few of the frameworks are of me only. Few of the frameworks I bought or I got from some other people. I'll try to show you guys all of those things and could be helpful for you guys. Hey Akshat. Hey Jagan. Cool. So what I'll do is meanwhile I'll start sharing my screen and we'll slowly begin the session. Okay. Here. Cool. Let me drag these things ahead and give me a second. Let me mute my phone. Perfect. So the agenda of today's class is how do you become a data solutions architect? Okay. Word sounds very fancy, but the things they do, if you understand what kind of skill set is required and what kind of problems they solve, you might find it's not that tough also. It's not that complicated as well. Okay. Before beginning, I'll try to give you insight about what is a data solutions architect, right? Call it data architect also, both of them are same things, right? So generally, even if you forget this term, right, how do we work in a company? We get hired in a company because company or a client is trying to solve some problem and they have to achieve some goal, right? If I have to just jot it down, mm, this will be the case, right? You will have some kind of problem statement, could be of your own problem statement also, could be given by the company, or could be if you are building some product, right? Could be of any problem statement. Now to achieve from problem to goal or solution, right? Or to achieve a goal, you will need to build a solution for that. Okay. Now, doing this process of going from the problem statement to the goal and building a solution for that is nothing but a solutions architect's job. Okay. You could be a solution architect in your company also. Again, don't go by the designation. I'll break down all these things to you guys so you might understand what's happening under the hood. But you could be solving very small part of it, right? So overall, zoomed out picture, there will be a problem. You will need to find a solution for that. Solution will be, of course, tech involved, and then you will achieve a goal, right? Now to build this solution, to go from problem statement to goal, you need to do some certain steps. There will be a frameworks that you need to follow. For example, I'll give you a very small framework that I apply in every single project, in every single product that I build. This helps me to organize everything. Okay. Now, once you receive a problem statement, I'll give you the kind of problem statements also that you try to solve in a data domain or in data profession also. The first thing you need to worry about is sources. That where is the data source, right? So I'll slowly start writing down the steps that will be involved to build this solution, and then we'll double tap on each of that. Okay. First thing will be data source. Now, what is data source? Like, if you're trying to solve some problem by data, you'll need to have the data, right? Data could be present somewhere, could be in the database, could be in some maybe APIs, could be in some data warehouse, could be residing somewhere, right? Could be in CRM, ERP, any kind of tool could be there. You need to find the data sources for that. Once you have the data source decided, you will need to choose your tech stack, the most important part. Okay. So once you decide your data source that this is where my data is present, to solve some problem, I'll need to choose some tech stack, right? You'll need to have some tools in your arsenal that you can cherry pick and then try to use them to solve the problem, right? Once you choose a data tech stack also, you need to profile your data. What is the meaning of profiling a data? You need to understand what kind of data do you have, right? Is it like structured data? Is it unstructured data? What's the frequency of data? Is it coming weekly? Is it coming heavily? The grain of data? All those things are called data profiling. Okay. So third step typically when you try to solve a problem is you try to profile your data. Last thing that you need to do is you need to set some constraints, right? There will be always some constraints that you need to include in your solution. Constraints could be at a tech stack level that, hey, my company is using Azure, so I need to build the solution using only and only Azure products. Or hey, my company is using maybe Salesforce, so I need to use only Salesforce products to build the solution, right? So there will always be some constraints that you will need to justify. Constraints could be at a tool level, could be at people level also, that hey, the team which I have in my company only knows Python, that I'll need to set that as a constraint. Constraints could be at a pricing also, that hey, I need to build everything, the entire solution should be open source, for example, right? These are called constraints. So in a nutshell, if you can go from problem to the goal and decide all these steps on your own, you are nothing but a data solutions architect. Okay. Again, we are going to double tap on this also. But what happens in real life is typically when you work in your company, or if you're working as IC, right, you always get to work on just one part of the problem statement, right? So all these decisions someone else take. You are not the person who is deciding the entire architecture, that what is the data source, which tech stack should be used, what should be the architecture of that, the profiling and the constraints, and then building a solution, right? You typically, whenever you work as an IC, for example, or if you're not that technical expert, you will be solving very small part of this entire big picture. There will always be some person. That person could be from the client environments, could be from the client companies, or could be in your company only. There is some tech lead or some solutions architect who will be doing all this stuff. And once he creates the entire solution, you will be assigned some very small part of the solution. Okay, but in a nutshell, if you can think of a problem, technical problem, of course, and related to data, of course, and come up to the goal and decide each and every step on your own individually, you are nothing but a data solutions architect. But the problem is, if, for example, you're working in your company, right? To do all these things, you need to know your environment. You need to know, for example, your data tech stack, right? Because choosing a data source is not in your hand. Client will be having some data, could be present in the system. The first problem you will face when you try to build a solution or architect a solution is choosing a tech stack. There could be two problems that you will fail or you will face when you try to choose a tech stack, right? First is that hey, you don't know what kind of tech stack exists in the world. The second is you don't have that much expertise to choose, like when should I choose which tech stack in my single problem statement. I'll double tap on that. Typically, whenever you think of a solution, right, there could be multiple variants, multiple tools involved. But if I try to group every tool into buckets, one kind of tool or tech will be at a database level. Okay. Second step that will be involved, or the second kind of category of tools that you will be playing with, will be ETL tools. Call it ETL, call it ELT, doesn't matter, to be frank. Third kind of tool that you will be playing with is warehousing tools. And finally, the last step, that the kind of tools you need to know about is the give me a second, BI tools, right? The tools like Power BI or Tableau that you need to play with. Now, if you have to become a solutions architect, right, you need to know the horizontally all the tools. That means you need to know what kind of tool exists in database, in ETL world, give me a second, in warehousing world, and in BI tool. And you do not just need to know that here tool exists. You need to know ins and outs of that tool also. Otherwise, how will you choose a stack, right? So this is called horizontal upskilling or horizontal knowledge, that you know a lot. You know maybe one database, you know one ETL tool, you know one warehousing tool, you know one BI, but you don't have a depth in those tools. So this is horizontal upskilling or horizontal knowledge. You also need to have something called vertical knowledge in all these tools. Now, when we talk about vertical upskilling or vertical knowledge of all the tools, right? There is one very small metrics that I took from a person who is CEO of a company called Obsidian. Okay. Obsidian is a company who builds, he's a competitor of Notion. Obsidian has a product that helps us in note taking. Okay. And their CEO posted this metric. And the kind of framework that he gave was very interesting framework, that whenever we choose a product or we choose a tech stack and we want to upskill, there are layers in that software or in that tool. The layers typically are, first layer always will be app or UI. What do we mean by that? If I'm talking about Snowflake, you can open Snowflake, you can click some buttons, get some result. If you can open Power BI, click some button, drag a chart is built. That's the first layer in every software, the UI layer. Okay. Below this layer, there will be second layer that is called libraries. So give me a second. If I build here, now what do we mean by libraries? Every single tool or software that exists, they provide you some libraries to play with so that you don't have to always rely on the UI. So the second depth of learning any tool in software is you know the libraries part also. The third step is platforms. So if I dig down into the third step of the depth also, the platforms, right? That hey, you know the UI part, you know how to use Power BI, you know how to use Snowflake, the UI part. The second part is you know how do you play with the APIs, the SDKs, the libraries that exist in that tool. That's a second layer of depth. The third layer is platform, that you do not only know how do you use API, you also know how do I integrate this platform, this software with some other tools. How do I bring it to the off the cloud? How do I move the same UI to some other platform, to some other cloud? That's a third layer. Okay. Then exists the fourth layer. You call it the protocols layer. That you know that if you're working with Snowflake, you understand, is it a ODBC connection? Is it a ADBC connection? Is it a JDBC connection? Those kind of things, right? That's the fourth layer of expertise you need to have. And finally, the last layer is the formats, that you know in the front end, Snowflake is just a data tool, right? You click on something, some buttons, and you get the table. But in the back end, you know that every single table is getting stored on some cloud platform, right? Everything is stored in some file formats, and you understand those file formats also. You understand what is Iceberg. You understand what is Hudi. You understand how does, for example, if I go to BI tools, right? You understand that every report is nothing but XML or JSON file, right? If you go to maybe some ETL tools, you understand that every ETL action that you are performing is nothing but a JSON file, right? That's the file format. Nowadays, by the way, there is additional layer added to all the tools. That is the intelligence layer, right? Every tool has their intelligence layer, Copilot, Cortex, Genie, Amazon has Q, right? So that is also added on top. But this is the metrics that we call the software layer metrics. And typically what happens is whenever you are trying to build a solution, or if you want to become someone who can architect a solution end to end, you need to know all these layers. This is called the vertical knowledge, by the way. And you need to know for all the horizontal tech stack also, for the database, for the ETL tool, for the warehousing tool, and for the BI tool. If you know these things, you can architect any solution that exists in the world. Okay, of course, I can keep drilling down into each and every step also, right? I had when I was planning the curriculum of the course also, I had to sit down to just write it out that what exactly is the thing that people misses, right? Typically, what happens is whenever I talk to someone and talk to them and say that, hey, do you know Power BI or hey, do you know Snowflake? Typically, what where they lie is in this layer. They just understand the UI part, and this is 90% of the people. Okay, 90% of the people you talk to will only know how do you use the UI of an app or how do you click the buttons, right? No one barely understands how does the things work under the hood. And this is the place, right? Even in the app, if I'm talking to you and asking you that, hey, do you know Snowflake? Or maybe, hey, do you know Power BI? There will be certain layers in that question also. There are certain depth in the UI part also. If I have to maybe draw those kind of depths also, maybe I'll give you a brief introduction about what I'm saying. First thing, when you open any tool, when you click on any UI, right, you get to see the specific features of that app, right? That, hey, if you're clicking a Snowflake, you will have a button to click database, you'll have a button to click table, you will have a button to click view. If you open Power BI, you will have a button to create a report, you will have a button to create some dashboard. If you open maybe some DBT, you will have a button to create some views, some materialized views, some text files, some SQL files. Every tool will have some specific features, some specific buttons. Okay. First layer is you understand, hey, how do I click a button? Second layer is that, hey, you understand all the features. Third layer could be, hey, you can integrate the tool with other tools. That, hey, if I'm using Power BI, for example, how do I integrate it with some maybe Snowflake? Or hey, if I'm using Snowflake, how do I integrate with some CRM? There are different techniques involved in this question also, by the way, but just trying to list down everything that exists. Then there is a layer called encryption, that you understand that whatever data is flowing into your tool, how is the data secured, right? So I'll write encryption here. Then there will be something called telemetry. What is telemetry? Telemetry is nothing but logging, right? That whatever tool you're using, right? What if you want to read the logs? Because whenever you try to do some automations, you want to avoid some manual tasks, you want to do some governance, logs is the only thing that will help you do that. And one layer is that, hey, you understand in your app where are the logs saved. When I talk to someone and ask them, hey, you have been using Power BI for 6 years, can you tell me where are the logs present? They can't answer. Even in Snowflake, yeah, if I ask them, hey, can you show me where are the log file present? They can't answer it. Okay. So the point here is every layer has some nuances, have some intrinsics that you need to know. Maybe next part could be access control. That whatever tool you are using, you understand that if you want to share the specific assets you are creating, how do you share that with some other people? There could be next layer called observability. That, hey, I want to govern everything which I'm creating in a tool. I want to know which person is creating bad queries, which person is creating good dashboards, who is using a lot of dashboards, right? That is called observability. Next could be you understand the testing part of a tool, that if you're building something, is it performing good, is it performing bad or not, right? Maybe one layer could be backups, one layer could be infrastructure, right? Just again, I can keep drilling this list down again and again, but my point is typically when I talk to people, they are just at this layer. They understand the UI layer or app layer and they think that they know the tech. To understand tech and to understand and build the solutions end to end, only that person will be able to build it who know all these layers. Because when you talk to client, right, when you talk to some person who is trying to build some solution, you can't just go to them and sell him and tell him that, hey, I know how do you create a dashboard. They don't even care, to be very frank. If you are a fresher, if you are very new in the career, then of course it's a very good mode that you should have. Even with fresher, right, if there are two people, one person can only create dashboard and other person understand all these layers, who do you think will get the preference? It's always the person who know the depth. Okay, so it's never about just knowing the UI layer of a software and calling you that person, that, hey, I'm a Power BI guy, I know the UI of Power BI. I'm a Databricks guy, I know the UI of Databricks, right? It's no, it's not going to help you in the long run. And to be very frank, you should always try to be tool agnostic. That, hey, I'm not a ETL guy, I'm not a BI guy, I'm not a warehousing guy, I'm not a Power BI guy. You just give me problem statement. I have done my homework hard enough that I understand each layer, each nuance is present in all the tools that I can give you a solution. This is the place where the solutions architect comes into the picture. That they understand all these layers, the database layer, the ETL layer, the warehousing layer, and the BI layer, and they understand the depth also. By depth, I'm repeating again, it doesn't mean that you have been using Power BI for last 6 years and you just know how do you create a report. That is not depth. Okay, so this layer was given by that guy. I forgot the name, but he's the CEO of Obsidian. He keeps on writing good LinkedIn posts, by the way. You can follow that guy. But the point is, you have to know the depth, right? And even on top of it, right, I can keep adding more and more points. One point which a lot of people miss is that if you understand one tool, do you understand the pricing of the tool also? For example, when I talk to someone and ask them, hey, do you know how much it will cost me to set up a new Power BI server in my company? Barely I'll find a 1 or 2 person who can answer this question. Even if they're using Power BI for 10 years, no one can answer it. If I ask them, hey, I want to purchase Snowflake today, can you suggest me some framework to come up with the pricing model? Or how much price will I need to pay? Because currently I'm at, let's say, 6 gigs or 6 TBs of data. This is also one of the things that you need to know if you are trying to build solution or if you're trying to suggest solution to client or trying to build something on your own, right? If you do not understand economics of your tool, if you do not understand pricing of your tool, it's not going to help you in a long way, right? It's just one piece. Again, you can have a lot of things, right? That do you understand automations that that are possible in your tool? What are automations, for example? If you are working in Snowflake, for example, and you want to create some access control rule, for example, right? That hey, if some new person comes into the company, assign him some viewer role, maybe, right? Very simple progress, very simple task. Typically, you will go to Snowflake, go to users, click on add a user, give him a role, and that's it. But can you do it automatically or not? What are the skill sets required to do these automations, right? What are the APIs, SDKs, the protocol that you need to know to go into automations? If you understand these kind of things, then things become easy for you. There is also another thing called history. No one cares about history, but I have been learning history, learning a lot through the history. By history, I mean that if you're using a tool that, or if you're learning a product, you should know that when this product was launched, what was the core problem it was solving, where is this tool today, how this tool has been progressing through the years, and then if you understand history, you can predict the future also, that based on the direction this tool is taking, is it going to fly or not? Okay, no one gives a damn, but if you understand history, trust me, it is going to help you a lot. It's always good to follow the product release pages. It's always good to follow the feature release pages of all the tools you guys are using, so that you know that where is the direction your tool is taking. Nowadays, for example, every tool is taking the direction of AI, right? See the product page of every tool, see the homepage of every tool, you'll find that hey, we are building AI stuff, right? But just a FYI, that a solutions architect in a nutshell is a person I can throw my problem statement to, and then I need some goal to achieve some goal. Now, within problem to go, there are some steps that he'll need to choose some data sources, some tech stack, some profiling, some constraints. And tech stack could be of any layer, database, ETL, warehousing, BA, and then he can come up with a solution for me. Okay, this is the person we call a solutions architect. I'll take a pause. I'll check the chat. If there is any Q&A, I'll take it up. Hey Madhur. Hey Kunal. Long time, Kunal. How are you? Hi
Hi,
Abdullah.
sir. I'm great. How about you?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. Hey Amy. Long time. Cool. So I don't see any question. I'll just continue whatever I had planned. So yeah, when I was saying that, hey, you need to know the depth, these are the layers, okay? And I can map these layers to any tool you guys are using, okay? Layers mean intelligence layer, the app or UI layer, the libraries layer, the protocols layer, the platforms layer. I think this should be protocols. And then the format layer. So maybe I'll take some examples to give you a glimpse of what do we mean by that, hey, you know, or you understand this layers, for example. Maybe we'll take example of some warehouse. Let's say Snowflake, for example. What is the intelligence layer of Snowflake? Cortex. They launched Cortex Analyst, and that helps you to do text to SQL, right? First layer is that, hey, you know how to use the intelligence layer. Again, this came very early. It's in very nascent stage. Nowadays, every product is releasing, but you should be aware of the intelligence layer because nowadays, whatever project we are getting in the market, that is tagged to intelligence layer that, hey, can you build this layer for me? The second layer is, of course, the app or the UI part. That, hey, do you know, if I'm talking about Snowflake, right? Do you know what is Snowslide? Do you know what is NoSQL? Do you know there's option of Streamlit in the UI? Do you know how do you create that? Do you know how do you click a button to create database, to create view? Do you know how do you click a button to create some warehouse? Typical stuff that you can do with the UI. That is the second layer, and almost everyone stops here. The third layer is libraries layer. I'm talking about Snowflake. So maybe, hey, do you know what kind of connectors I can use to connect to my data sources? How do I use Snowflake with a CLI, for example? CLI is command line interface, right? What is Snowpark, for example? How do I connect to my Snowflake, my own laptop using ODBC, JDBC, or nowadays there is a new connector called ADBC, right? What is the difference? When should I use these kind of protocols or the libraries, right? That's a third layer. Then could be platform layer that, hey, do you know how do you configure your entire platform infrastructure end to end? That, hey, which queue should I upgrade to? When should I pause my warehouse? When should I auto resume my warehouse? How much warehouses should I have? All those kind of things falls in the platform that you're not just working on your small project, you are thinking at a company level and organizing the entire infrastructure on your own. Protocols in Snowflake, you follow SQL, you follow REST APIs, you follow ADBC. In Snowflake, there is not a lot going on here. Formats, very important thing. If you're going in an interview, right, and someone is asking you that, hey, can you tell me what is Snowflake? The first answer that should come out of your answer should be that, hey, it's a warehouse that stores my data in micro partitions. Micro partition is the only word that other person is looking for. Again, when I say formats, there are different formats in Snowflake. There's micro partition, there are variants, you can play with the Parquet format, you can play with the iceberg tables also. But when I talk about formats, typically no one can answer these questions also in interviews. Okay. And what happens is people are generally, most majority of the people will upskill till this layer and they will skip this layer. And the hard or bitter truth is the first two layers change every 1 or 2 years. Okay. The apps, the UI, the intelligence layer will change every 2 year, every 3 year. The moment you go down, means you go to protocols and a format layer, they changes per decade, per 2 decades, for example. That iceberg, for example, the SQL, for example, they have never changed. Okay. But people will learn till here, and then there will be a new tool coming into the market next year, and then they'll need to learn that also. It will be very tough for a person who has just gone till the UI layer to understand new layer because of course they don't understand the ins and outs of the tool. If a person knows still the format layer, for example, format is the base layer, that how that tool is behaving on your disk, on your RAM, on your ROM. If you understand this layer, I can switch all the layers which are on top. Even I can build my own tool on top of the layers. It's not going to be very tough for me to upskill on that. Okay. So I get this question a lot, that how do you keep up with the tools which are coming in the market, especially in the data ecosystem, right? Every year there will be new tool. But if you're just going to the UI layer, trust me, every time it's going to be pain for you to understand how the tool works. But if you understand how the tool works on your disk, on your RAM, and on your ROM, it's a piece of cake. I can switch Snowflake to Databricks. I can switch Power BI to Tableau. I can switch Informatica to DBT. Everything will be similar. The fundamentals of a tool remains similar. So things don't change a lot when you go from top to bottom. So always focus on the bottom layers, and your focus should always be here, not on top. Okay, so this is also one layer. Again, I was giving you example of Snowflake. I can give you example of any BI tool also, right? Intelligence. What is intelligence in BI tool? That's Copilot. What is app in BI, Power BI, right? It's a Power BI desktop. You also get some third-party tools, apps also. For example, DAX Studio, Tableau Editor, Power BI Service, those kind of things. What is libraries? Typically, no one, even if a person is working for 5, 10 years, right? Barely they can answer that what are the libraries which are given by Power BI. Libraries are REST APIs, the Tom library, the TMSL library, the C shell scripting, the SemPy library. These are the libraries that help you to do the automations. Okay. These are libraries officially given by Microsoft. Again, I can go to platforms also, right? We have Fabric nowadays. Fabric is nothing but a platform. We have analysis services, that is also a platform given by Power BI, by Microsoft. Protocols. What are the protocols followed in Power BI? We follow XMLA, we follow MDX, we follow DAX, we follow REST APIs. What are the formats? Typically, the format in which your file is stored is either PBIP, PBIT, vertipex columnar formats, right? The delta formats also. These are the layers that you need to understand. If you're just understanding that, hey, how do I use a Power BI application to understand or build dashboard, not going to help. If you just know how do I click on a button to create a dashboard or a database in Snowflake or Databricks, not going to help you in long way. Okay, so again, I can keep drilling on each and every point, but just for the sake of time, I'm just giving you example that if you want to become a person who can architect solution, this is what you need to know. Okay, I'll check the chat. Hey Abhishek. Mm, I don't have anything else. Okay, so I don't have anything else in the Q&A. So I will now drill down into these four steps that, hey, when I was talking about problem statement, what kind of problem statement could exist? When I'm talking about maybe data sources, what kind of data sources could exist? Okay, because these are the only thing you need to know. Okay, that maybe I'll start with the problem statement, right? Can you just tell me what kind of problem statement you have seen typically in the projects you have worked on? Problem statement can be tagged into very specific categories. One could be that, hey, client is having some manual spreadsheet reporting and they want to automate it. The problem statement typically looks like client will say, hey, we copy paste data to Excel every week, try to solve it. This is one kind of problem. Another problem statement could be fragmented or siloed data. Maybe client will ask you that, hey boss, every tool is having its own number and everything is not matching to each other. This is second kind of problem statement. Third problem statement could be creating maybe source of truth for your data. Typically client will say, hey, my sales and my finance data are not matching. The revenue is different. Another problem statement could be maybe slow reporting, right? Maybe by the time I see my report, the data is already old, right? Next could be real-time reporting. Hey, I want to see my log data. I want to take decision on top of it, but I can't because the infrastructure is not set up as of now. Other could be at scale. Scale is a very big problem statement that people try to solve when they're working at architect level, that queries take a lot of time to render. Dashboards take a lot of time to render. My database hangs when I scale it to the users. Right? That could be one problem statement. Another problem statement could be you're trying to set up an entire infrastructure of your project. Those projects, by the way, are called greenfield projects. That, hey, we are on Azure, but we don't use any other component. Help me maximize the output of my infrastructure, for example. One kind of problem statement could be low trust on your data, or you also call it maybe poor data quality issues. That, hey, no one is believing my dashboards. Another could be expensive tooling problem statement, that, hey, my tools are too expensive, I want to migrate. These are migration problems, right? That, hey, my bill of AWS is 8,000K, help me save it. Right? These are one kind of problem statement. Migration, by the way, is a very infamous problem statement that people try to solve. And typically, some people have relied their entire career on migration, that we are migration experts. Migration could be from database to database, migration could be from warehouse to warehouse, or from BI tool to BI tool. Depends, right? One kind of problem statement could be self-service, that, hey, we have all the data, but I want my business users to consume that data. That could be one kind of problem statement. There could be compliance problem statement, that, hey, I want to make sure that I'm following all the compliances. So then you will need to build some other layers, some governance layer on top of your data, right? So problem statement could be of any type. I just give you few of the examples. I have something in the chat. Another problem statement for legacy tool too. Perfect. Yes, Param is like mentioning this migration problem statement, right? I was asking about the same thing, that it's a very widely infamous problem statement because in data world especially, the tech stack changes every 2 to 3 years. Okay, and every company wants to be at the latest tech stack which they're using. So nowadays they either try to migrate from older legacy tools to modern tools. Maybe they want to migrate from MySQL server that is on premise to some Azure SQL. That could be a one problem statement migration. Other could be of the ETL tool migration, that, hey, currently we're using Informatica Power Center, but it's nowhere nowadays used. We want to migrate to the DBT. That could be of second migration problem statement. Another could be of warehousing migrations that, hey, right now I'm in Snowflake, but I want to be entire end-to-end on my Azure. So maybe move it to Fabric, for example. Another problem statement could be, hey, I'm using Tableau, but no one uses Tableau nowadays. I want to move to Power BI, right? So could be of anything. Maybe they want to move the cataloging layer also. But these migration problem statements are very infamous problem statements, right? Yes, FileMaker to Fabric. They are also getting handsome money. Yes. If you know the migration, because migration is the nastiest problem you guys can solve. Okay, because you need to know ins and outs of every tool that you are playing with. Migration problem statements are very hard to solve. Single source of truth in my case, data from two sources, same dimension, say customer profile exists differently in two systems, right? How to solve it? Yes, perfect. This is one of the prime problem statement that, hey, the data is not matching, right? So now this was the problem statement. Based on the problem statement, you also define your success criteria that, hey, I want in the end that my problem should be solved, right? But to solve this problem, it's not that in one line or two line you will be able to solve it. Of course, if you are giving me answer of problem statement without asking me these questions, I'm not going to even consider your answer because you haven't even considered my constraints, my data source, my tech stack, right? So whenever you see a problem statement, you always have to ask these four questions. This is my framework, nowhere mentioned, but typically I follow this framework. First question, typically when you ask, again, problem statements typically I just discussed, but data sources may could be that, hey, what kind of data source do you have? Are you using relational database or maybe OLTP database? Answer could be yes, we're using PostgreSQL, we're using MySQL, we're using SQLite, or maybe we are using cloud-based OLTP, for example, Supabase. Again, a new product, but very cool product for the data source. Some companies can say, hey, no, we don't want to use the data, solve the problem from the data source directly from the OLTP. We have the OLAP layer. Maybe they are having the data in the Snowflake, Databricks, and ClickHouse, for example, right? Maybe they will say, hey, my data is residing on the file storage system, maybe either in CSV, in Excel, in Avro files, or in S3, my Parquet files are saved. This could be one type of data source. Another could be APIs that, hey, I have my own product and that product, that website is releasing the data source from the API directly. That could be one kind of data source for me. I can be having data source from CRMs, from ERP, from some marketing tools, from some ad analytics tools. Data source could be present anywhere, but you have to understand where your data is present because your entire solution will depend on where your data is present. Okay. I have something in the chat. No. Okay, so just don't come up with a solution directly. Always ask that where the data is present because your architecture will depend on where your data is present. Also, by the way, you also need to understand the frequency of your data source, that how frequent your data source is releasing or getting the data. For example, what could be the options? Your data source could be releasing the data real time. Maybe it's streaming your data, or maybe you want some near real-time data that not at every millisecond you want to show the data. Maybe after 1 minute, 2 minutes, it's entirely fine to show the data. Could be near real-time. Could be at hourly batches that, hey, after every hour my data is getting fetched and I want to my solution to be like that only. Maybe at a daily batches, at a weekly batches, or maybe you can have a mixed strategy also. Okay. So your data source plus the frequency in which the data source is producing or getting the data matters, and it will decide the architecture of your solution. Okay. Let me see this. I don't have anything in Q&A. Perfect. Okay. So this was the first point. Again, data source decides a lot of things. One was like, hey, how much frequency, at what frequency your data is coming at. One could be at ingestion technique also. That how do you want to ingest your data, or how is your data ingested in your data source currently? Is it full load? What is full load? Full load mean whatever data comes to the source, I'll just pull everything and post it or place it to my future destination data source, for example. Your frequency of ingestion could be at incremental level that, hey, I get billions of records every day. Don't load everything, just load whatever is incremental to my data. Your ingestion technique could be CDC, that whatever data has changed, only capture that data. You can have log-based application, you can have batch-based application, you can have streamlining application, you can have snapshotting application. Snapshotting means Every day 5 p.m. I'll take the snapshot, save it. Every day 5 p.m. take the snapshot, save it, right? So a lot of things depend on what kind of data source you are using. Okay. Once you have the answers of these questions, that what is your data source, what kind of ingestion technique are we trying to use here, and how frequent do you want to see the data? Then comes the second step, the most important step, that is choosing the data tech stack. Okay, of course. First thing could be cloud provider, that which provider you're using. Either if you're on Azure, you might be using Fabric. If you're in GCP, you will be using some different tech stack. If you're on AWS, you will be using some different tech stack. And of course, if they are not even on cloud, they could be on-premise solutions. They can have self-hosted PostgreSQL. They can have DuckDB or ClickHost, for example. Choosing a tech stack is also very important. You can't just suggest that if I am on AWS and you are suggesting me that, hey, Sahil, use Fabric, I will just cut the call right away, right? Because depending on whatever tech cloud provider I am currently deciding on, you have to suggest your tech stack based on that specific cloud provider only, right? And of course, tools depends on what kind of, at which layer you're trying to solve the problems, right? You will have different tool at a database layer. You will have a different tool at a ETL layer. You will have a different tool at warehousing layer. You will have a different tool at BI layer. But if you are an architect, I'm expecting you to know what are the options available in market, what are the differences in those tools, what are the pros and cons of those tools at each layer. This is what I expect from a person who is claiming to be architect or a person who knows their tech stack and they are suggesting me some solution. This is also one of a gap, by the way. If I'm talking to some analyst, for example, they can't, and they'll say, I'm a Power BI person, I can build any solution. But if I tell them, hey, can you tell me one thing which is possible in Power BI and which is not possible in Tableau, they can't answer it. Same thing in Snowflake also. Someone will say, hey, I have been working in Snowflake for 5 years. But if I ask that, hey, can you suggest me when should I not use Snowflake? They will not be able to answer it. Okay. So I want you to know not only your tool, know your tool and the pros and cons of your tool, because the tool will be selected based on the problem statement. If you know only one tool, you will not be able to suggest the client other tools also, and hence your solution will collapse, right? Today only, for example, I was writing a post right on LinkedIn that, hey, for example, if a client comes to me and asks me that, hey, I need a warehouse. Okay. I can't just tell him that, hey, purchase Snowflake or Databricks. I need to ask him what is the problem you are trying to solve. They will say that, hey, Sahil, maybe I'm building a company that is ride sharing company. I get the data every minute, every second. I'm getting tons of data. Every second, the location of car is given to me. That's a log data, right? Now, to suggest him a database warehouse, I can't just tell him that, hey, use Databricks or use Snowflake. I have to tell him that, hey, there are some specific features or attributes of a logging data. What is the logging data? Logging data is a data that comes at very high volume. Typically, you don't need to update a logging data. You just read the log data at batches, right? These are the things that define logging data, for example. And based on this, I will need to suggest him all the tools which are relevant here. I can't suggest someone to use Power BI to represent log data, right? Will never work. I can't suggest someone Snowflake for logging data. I can't suggest someone to use Informatica for the logging data, right? Because these tools aren't built for that design pattern. So depending on the problem statement that, hey, this is my problem, I will choose a tech stack. But which cloud provider you are currently deciding on is also a very important factor. Okay. And it's not that tough also, by the way, that, hey, if I'm saying you that, hey, you need to know every tool, right? Maybe you need to know in warehousing, you need to know Snowflake, Cloud, ClickHouse, DuckDB, MotherDuck, and Databricks, right? It's not that complicated, to be very frank, to know all these tools if you know the fundamentals. I'll try to give you some example that, hey, every single tool is offering you same thing. If you understand this layer, that, hey, the files from formats and the protocols and the platform, all other things are common in every other tool. Okay. Just the name changes, just the way the operation is performed or the way the button is clicked changes. Rest every single goddamn thing remains same. Okay. To be very frank, right? Being in the data industry is the easiest thing you can expect. Okay. See, everything is a UI nowadays. Everything is a SaaS tool nowadays, right? What is a SaaS tool? Instagram is also a SaaS tool, and maybe take example of Databricks. It's also a SaaS tool, right? That they give you buttons to compute, play with the compute, play with the artifacts, and then you can create it. The only difference between an Instagram user and a Databricks user is Databricks person know to they know maybe Databricks has 50 more buttons than Instagram. Okay. So the more buttons you can click, the more money you are going to get in data world. Okay. Because to be very frank, right, the base layer, the code layer is common, the SQL and the Python. If you understand these two, of course, PySpark is a layer built on top of Python. But if I am telling you that the more buttons you can click, the more money you are going to get. Okay, this is the easiest pitch I can give to someone that, hey, learn more tools, and not only learn tools to the depth at a file format and protocol layer. And the more buttons you need to play, the more companies, the more softwares you can use. You can click on Instagram, you can click on Facebook. So why not you just learn the buttons of Snowflake? Why don't you just learn the buttons of ClickHouse? Why don't you learn how to click the buttons of MotherDuck? I'm telling you that you're going to get money, and every tool can be upskilled in a month. Month is a maximum you need to get or give. Okay. Average lifespan of professional in data world is 40 years, for example. I am telling you in these 3 to 4 layers, database, ETL, warehousing, BI. These are 4 layers. Pick any one tool, master it till the level of format. And then once you know these 4 layers, you are going to survive and make good, handsome money for 40 years. This is my proposition, okay? That if you can do this, your 40 layers of, or how many years of experience or corporate culture, corporate lifespan you're like currently pending, you're going to excel in that. Okay, but the problem is people go to this level. Okay, but it's not that tough. I was just trying to tell you that hey, no one layer, no one tool. But when you're learning that tool, learn it till the depth of the tool, till the formats and the protocols, and then it's very easy for you to translate same tool to other tool. If you know Snowflake to the depth, you very well can upskill to Databricks in 1 week. If you know Databricks, you can upskill to ClickHouse in 1 week. But only that person can be able to translate this knowledge if they know the depth. If you only know to click buttons, things are going to be tough for you. Should we also consider the cost factor even though tool best suits a case if a company is not adding? Yes, perfect. When I was saying this, right, this will come in constraints that I can't just suggest any tool to my client. I have always to always have to ask them, is there any constraint? Right? I'll talk to constraint also, but it's a very good point that cost, to be frank, in the end, only two things matter: performance and cost. Everything else is just jargon. Okay. There could be n number of constraints. There could be n number of reasons to avoid a tech stack also. Maybe one reason could be, hey, your tech stack is too expensive. Or hey, my tech stack is too complicated for my entire team. Could be, hey, this tech stack is having vendor lock-in. Or hey, this tech stack is legacy. Or hey, this tech stack is overkill for my solution. If I am having just very small company, if I am running data discourse, for example, I don't need Snowflake. Why do I need Snowflake, right? So these are the factors you need to consider when you are deciding your tech stack also. Or maybe, hey, running a tech stack also comes up with the operational overhead, right? So all these points also come when you're deciding a tech stack. Data volume is also one factor. Data profiling, whenever you are profiling your data, you always have to know what is the kind of data you are dealing with. Data volume could be one point. For example, if you're dealing with small quantity of data, small quantity could be in today's day and world, let's say 10 GBs of data. If you're working with 10 below 10 gigs of data, you can work with single node of architecture. You can play with PostgreSQL, DuckDB, SQLite, everything works fine. But when you're working with very large data, by very large data, I mean maybe 5 to 10 terabytes of data, then of course your decisions will change depending on, because your compute can't be residing on one single node. You will need to have distributed compute for that. For the distributed compute, maybe you can choose Snowflake, maybe you can choose Databricks. You will need to have something called heavily partitioned data. Might think of Lakehouse, right? So depending on the profiling of your data, your tech stack will also change, right? Same thing for the processing frequency also. When you're profiling your data, you need to know how frequent do you want your data to be represented. Do you want it real time, near real time, hourly, weekly, daily, monthly, right? This is called profiling a data, and profiling a data will change what kind of solution you are expecting. Again, there could be different type of data also. This also comes in data profiling, that what is the data variety in my data tech stack. Is my problem expecting only structured data? That means I have only tables, rows, columns, relational data. This will decide your tech stack that, hey, I can build classic star schema model, schema on write model, those kind of things. But if you're working with structured or semi-structured data, maybe you're working with the JSONs, logs, event streams, then your decisions on building a database will also change. You might think of maybe, hey, I'll first flatten my pipelines. I'll use JSON partitioning in my data, depending on whatever the data source is there, right? If you're using entirely unstructured data, maybe you're playing with images, documents, videos, PDFs, then of course you need to work with Lakehouse, for example. You will might need to integrate some embeddings, vector databases into your platforms, right? So all these things which I have written will decide what is the solution going to look like. Okay, so don't just think a problem, see a problem, and you have some two, three tools in your arsenal and you will just throw it at the client. It is not going to help you out. You always have to think of these four factors: data source, tech stack, data profiling, and of course, constraint. I was just getting a message in the Q&A that, hey, cost is also a factor. Abhishek told this, that, hey, cost is a factor. There could be n number of other constraints also. Maybe who is going to maintain your entire data tech stack once you're gone from the system? If it's just one developer, your entire tech stack could change, right? If there is a very big data team present, you can choose some complicated data tech stack also. When you work in freelancing, by the way, this I feel a lot. This single problem statement I feel a lot. Okay, when I work for some very small companies who are starting out, I can't sell them Snowflake because they don't have any Snowflake developer in their company. I always have to sell them very small, sweet and clean solution that is very click and maybe website friendly. They'll click on a button, the CSV will load to Snowflake, and they'll get a dashboard. So constraint is also not always on the cost and the technicalities, also on what is the person or what is the kind of companies you are pitching the solution to. If you only know Snowflake, if you only know Databricks, you can never do freelancing also. I'm very frank here. Because freelancing typically is given to people and given by companies who are starting new, right? If you're working for $1 billion companies, or if you're working for $1 million companies, they don't work with freelancers, right? They work with the companies, they work with the consulting companies. So this is also one factor that you have to keep your arsenal very much occupied with the tools, the specific set of problem statement which tool is solving, the open source tech stack also that helps you to grow in the freelancing career also. Right? The budgeting also, the cost is very important factor. Your budget could be, client's constraint could be, hey, I want the entire solution to be under $500. If that is your constraint, you have to work with open source tools. You have to work with the free tiers of the tools, right? Because otherwise everything will fail. But if you're working with a for a small, maybe large company, right? They might have that, hey, build a solution. The cost constraint would maybe, hey, keep it under $5,000. If that is the constraint, I can go with any fully managed applications. I can pick high computes. I can compute, have more seats present in my licensing cost also. All these factors, again, these are very small constraints which I am saying. All these pointers can have a lot more constraints. Constraint could be, hey, I want to implement row level security. I want to implement column level security. I want to make sure that I'm following GDPR rules. I want to make sure I have end-to-end lineage. I want to make sure that there is a retention policy implemented in your solution. I want to make sure that there is an audit happening every single day or every single month, once in a year. I want to make sure that maybe I have my encryption implemented in my solution, right? You can have as many constraints as possible, but you always have to sit with client to understand that what kind of constraint do you want to have. And if client doesn't know you, it's your responsibility as a solutions architect to suggest them that, hey, this is coming with this pro and this con. Once you do all these things, all these four steps on the problem statement, you get a goal implemented, right? Goal could be, hey, create a business dashboard for me, implement reporting for me. I want to do ML and AI readiness on top of my entire data stack. I want to enable self-serve. I want to modernize. I want to replace manual reporting. I want to create some investor KPI cards, investor reports, and those kind of things also. Or maybe I want to automate some manual pipelines as of now, right? So problem to solution, you have to build a solution. Problem to goal, you have to build a solution. But the solution is not that, hey, if I know one tool, I'll just push it to client, and then they'll be able to build the solution, right? You always have to know each element which I was writing here. That you know the encryptions, the telemetrics, access control, observability, testing, backup infrastructure. Now, if you want to take anything from this class, take screenshot of this specific visual and try to understand where do you stand today. Do you stand only at a UI level, or do you stand at all these layers you have corrected? Ideal goal. I'm not saying come to me to learn this. It's not my goal. Ideal goal of yours should be use any source that you want. Pick documentation, pick YouTube, pick Udemy also if you want. But try to reach to all these levels. If you understand these levels, and don't even do it for all the tools. Pick any one tool, know all these layers. Once you know one single layer, maybe let's say you are a BI person or an analytics person, pick one tool, maybe Power BI or Tableau, know all these layers. Once you know all these layers, try to translate same knowledge to other BI tool. Once you know those two tools, the market leaders, then try to eat the layer which is on left of you. I was telling you in last to last class also that the market is moving left. Okay, the companies are moving left. They're trying to get close to data as soon as possible. And it is your responsibility also to move to the left. That if you know BI, try to learn warehousing. If you understand warehousing, try to learn ETL. If you understand ETL, try to learn database. If you understand database also, then of course I suggest you guys to always learn CRM, because business runs on CRM. If you do not understand CRM, you cannot understand business. But again, that's a layer that comes a long, long, long way afterwards. But this should be the upskilling journey of everyone who wants to be at a data architect level. If you want to be at a very base level, that hey, I know a tool, perfectly fine. But the perks which a person get if he know these layers are enormous. I'm not going to talk about the perks here. Perks could be at a monetary level also. At the Again, I'm not going to talk about the perks in this class, but trust me, okay? Everything else is just a byproduct. If you know these things, everything else, I'm just telling you guys, okay? Everything else is a byproduct of your knowledge. Okay, I have something in the chat. Some managers say why we need solution data architect, hence AI can give you a better solution. Personally faces this kind of managers mentally, especially. So this happens a lot, okay? To be very frank, AI cannot solve hard questions, hard problems, right? I have n number of examples. Maybe I can share my PDF with you also there where the AI is failing. See, AI is trained on the internet data. The hard problem have been solved by people who are like 50 years, 60 years of age, okay? They never went on internet, on LinkedIn, on Reddit to write their answers, okay? That information, that insight has always been gatekept. That has never been implemented on the internet. If you ask me that, hey, I want to move from SAP BO to Power BI, ask any AI to give you a solution. Every solution, goddamn solution will fail, because this information is already gate kept by the companies, right? No one went on internet to write this information. Premium knowledge, niche knowledge has already been gate kept. Even if it existed on the internet, it was always behind the paywalls. And AI, to be very frank, hasn't been trained on that information. Okay. So AI can answer your questions, but if you ask him to build the end-to-end solution, it will never tell you that, hey, this is the place where your solution will fail. I read this quote somewhere that AI can give you rules, it can tell you rules, but if you know end-to-end solution, you can tell the exceptions that, hey, this solution is going to fail. And that's also the difference between a fresher and an experienced person, right? I know that this solution is going to fail when and at what scale. A fresher cannot know, right? So experience versus exceptions versus rules, that kind of argument. In scenarios where optimization cannot uh, in scenarios where an organization does not plan to purchase a data governance platform, what practical approaches can be used to establish data foundational data governance using the current data tech stack? So if you do not want to purchase the data governance tech stack separately, every tool nowadays is trying to add a governance layer. For example, data lineage. Every tool is trying to give you a lineage. If you understand lineage of your tool, for example, Power BI, okay, at least try to create your custom dashboard for the governance. Custom dashboard could be how many dashboards you have, how many data sources you have, who is creating most dashboards, at what time your schedules are happening, at what time your schedules are failing. So if you cannot, or if your client cannot afford a separate governance layer, you always have to suggest them that nowadays APIs are smart enough, tools are smart enough that they give you built-in reports. Power BI also give you compute metrics reports, for example, right? So you always have to integrate those reports together. This could be at the observability level governance. Now, one layer again, the same concept applies to Snowflake also. Snowflake has information schema, Databricks has Unity catalog. They are very much defined, very much optimized that they will give you all the answers which you need for the governance. But if your question is that if a person is if my team is publishing something to the cloud, maybe to Snowflake, if someone is creating Snowflake tables, if my developer is creating Power BI dashboards, how do I implement my governance there? In that layer, you will, of course, if you cannot purchase a tool, you will need to set up a manual process. What is a manual process? A very big Fortune 500 company for CPG does this, by the way. Their process is there is prod workspace, for example. No one in the company has permission to publish anything in the prod workspace. If they have to publish, if anyone has to publish anything in the prod workspace, they have to talk to governance team. Governance team is a two people team. They will come to you. They have a checklist that, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? You will sit on a call with them. You will see if they have implemented that or not. If things have been implemented, they will publish that live on the call. This is called manual governance, but companies have implemented that. Same thing can happen at the Snowflake layer also, that hey, the prod or the platinum layer which you have will always will be gate kept, and only few people will be able to allow that, hey, everything looks fine, merge it to the prod. Those could be the kind of techniques you can suggest to the client if they are not allowing you to purchase the governance tools, Param. Right? So let me see this. Okay, I don't see any other question. I have something in the chat. Sweet. Perfect. But governance is a very important factor. You always need to know that how is your entire, because if you do not govern your tech stack, the technical depth which you guys are going to have is going to be enormous. Okay, if everyone, and nowadays this is also a problem with self-service. Okay, everyone is creating their dashboard using Copilot and they are publishing it to the Power BI service. But if there is something in the server, it is going to take your consume, it is going to consume your compute, it is going to consume your storage, or both these things cost you money. If you do not have a guardrails today, your compute and storage are going to fly to that level that you will need to just take down your Power BI tenant. Okay, this is the pitch nowadays, by the way. Every consulting company is giving that, hey, follow us, we are better developers, we can gatekeep your prod workspaces also. So governance is going to play a very important role in next 2 to 3 years also, because everyone wants to nowadays build code and build solution. Okay, having said this, I will take a pause that if you want to upskill and learn all these things, there could be two ways. Okay, I will not suggest you that, hey, follow any way, it is on you. First way could be just take a screenshot of this specific path, this specific things, and learn it on your own. It's also great technique. But if you need a hand holding, if you want to learn someone from these things from someone who has already solved it, I'm coming up with a course that is starting on the 15th of August. Okay, the purpose of the course is to take a person and build them as a solutions architect. All these things which I have written on the screen are going to be covered in that course. Okay, if you haven't heard or if you haven't seen it, it is already live on the website Data Discourse. Just go to the courses here. This is the course I'm talking about. It's going to be 70 plus hours of course, 3.5 to 4 months it is going to take. I'm going to cover 23 plus tools, and every tool is going to be covered till the depth so that you understand that, hey, how do you develop a solution? And what exactly is the difference between an IC, individual contributor, and a person who works as a lead or who works as a senior? Everything is covered in this course. If you scroll to the bottom, you will also find the program outline. Basically, like, hey, we start with the data languages, we start with the databases, warehousing tools, ETL tools, BI tools, CI/CD, API, optimizations, governance, agentic solution, because nowadays everyone wants to build agents in their libraries. Agents, building agent is the easiest thing you can do if you understand the basics. Okay, open source tech stack, and we'll build the products and the solutions and then the interview prep. If in case you do not know me yet, my name is Sahil. I should have done it in the starting, but hey, my name is Sahil. I currently am working as a senior manager analytics and data in Sigma Analytics. I'm also innovation lead at my company. This is my 9 to 5 job. Apart from 9 to 5, I do a lot of things. I teach. I have currently 300 plus hours of courses on the internet revolving around data products, data solutions only. Fabric, Informatica, DBT, Analytics Engineering, Tableau, Power BI. I have my courses on all these verticals. So I have been in this career since 3 years, and I have been in mentor also. I'm top 1% mentor on TopMate. I have been speaking also. I have spoken in Google's conference. I have spoken in the Microsoft conference. In the 5th August, I'm speaking in the Salesforce Tableau conference also. I'm Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, Tech Stack certified. So I know stuff which I say. I'm not someone who is a teacher. I'm someone who is a practitioner who is solving all these things in real life. And yeah, I'm official Databricks Snowflake Azure partner also. So this is me. If you are interested to learn everything from me, this is the website. Just go to datadiscourse.in. You will find the relevant links. You can purchase the course from there. Otherwise, I will also place these links in the chat, and these are the links. And my promise to you is, if you're coming to this course, I know a lot of you are already part of this course, but to the people who are not in this course, give me your 4 months. I will take you to the level which I was just showing you on the screen, that you will be able to create the solution which I was just talking about. Okay, that is my guarantee. Even on the last day, if you think this hasn't happened, I'll refund you everything, because that is the confidence that I have on this cohort. Okay. So this was everything. Also, by the way, I have placed a Discord link in the chat also. You can join the Discord. That is free of cost. For free of cost, I keep on running the free masterclasses. These free masterclasses will keep on going in the future also, but I can't cover depth here because I have just 1 hour to cover everything. So you can join the free masterclasses in the future also. You can join the Discord also. I keep on posting some interesting links inside that I found on the internet. But if you want to learn everything in depth from me, we have a course for that. It's starting on 15th August. It will take you 4 months, and then you will know almost everything that is written on the course page. Okay. But yeah, I'm not suggesting you do anything. Take your own decision. I wanted to just let you guys know that what is depth, what you need to learn, the path which you need to follow. I'm always there for you, right? Even if you purchase a course, even if you not purchase a course, just ping me on LinkedIn that you're facing some problem. I'll be able to answer that and solve that problem. Having said that, I think we are good for the day. If you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be able to answer that. Okay, so yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. If you have any question, again, if you want to talk to me right now, also you can unmute yourself, or if you want to talk to me personally, you should be having my number, or you should be having my LinkedIn. I'll drop that here. I think you should be having it, but just for the sake of it, I will drop my link here. Yes, that's correct, Abhishek. The USD pricing will be different than the INR pricing. The reason being, of course, we get paid a markup that the platform charges us, right? So it's, I think, 30% markup that is applied by the LMS which we go with. Yes, Abhishek, we can talk on the phone. Perfectly fine. I will drop, okay, ping me on LinkedIn. I'll drop my number if you don't have it. Or just go to the website, click on the WhatsApp. That's my number only. It's just a one person managing everything. Cool. So I hope you learned something new. Thanks a lot for joining on the Sunday evening. And yeah, have a good day and have a good rest of the weekend. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks, Abdullah. Thanks, Amy.